Okay, I want to move on now to Q&A on Monday night, and one part of it in particular, and it goes to the Uluru Statement. Now, the government said to the Aboriginal community, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want. So they came back with an advisory body. They want an advisory body reporting to the Parliament, and of course the government has said no to that. The Prime Minister was challenged about that on Q&A.
I have to be honest with you about this. I don't think it's a good idea. And if it were put up in a referendum, it would go down in flames.
I want to go back to Teela.
That's my view.
The Prime Minister can honestly not sit there and say it will fail. If that's his position, then we clearly need a leader with some courage who's going to take our country entirely, not just Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, but everyone.
I'm disappointed that you place so little store on the Aboriginal people, members of the Australian Parliament. I was at, well...
It's because they represent their political interests.
Oh.
All right.
Really? So Ken Wyatt, what are you saying about Ken Wyatt and Linda Burney?
I totally
they're
respect
first
their
Australians.
positions in Parliament, but they've both got political positions to make in Parliament. They don't represent the interest of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people.
To dismiss them as just being, you know, what are you suggesting? They are tokens of
Absolutely
political parties?
not what I'm saying.
What he seemed to be saying is that because there are now two people of Aboriginal descent in the House of Representatives, then there's no need for an advisory body.
You know, I thought that was a low point of that night, actually, because it was such a flimsy argument. I mean, to be suggesting that Ken Wyatt and Linda Burney constitute the answer to this quite fundamental problem.
Well, they are restricted by their alliance with political parties.
Well, and why should they be defined by their Aboriginality? They don't have to be. They didn't, go into Parliament. They went into Parliament as a Labor MP and a Liberal MP.
We didn't see it there, but there's also, David, this insistence that you can't have this advisory body because it would be a third chamber of the Parliament. Now, in what way would it be a third chamber when they have no powers to introduce legislation and no power of veto over anything?
It's not a third chamber, of course, but it's easily confused as a third chamber. And what I fault Turnbull for is not having more patience. This is a difficult idea. That was brought up as a way of ensuring recognition in the Constitution. It's an idea that needs more time to be tested and to become widely known. And ultimately, the decisions that are made about whether that is put to the Australian people will come out of some very tough political considerations. Don't forget that the triumph of the 1967 referendum, partly due to intense backroom negotiations between the parties, and in particular, the negotiations that were done to stop Queensland opposing in 1967. There were tough, big political deals done behind all of that, and the result was a triumph. It's not impossible for such a triumph to be facing a proposition of this kind, but it needs more time.
Maybe it needs a plebiscite first rather than a referendum.
Well, actually, referendums are plebiscites.
But, Nikki, what was missing on Monday night, though?
A plebiscite referendum, you need a majority of votes and a majority of states.
Not two national votes for the same question. I think that's really...
Well, except it would show, I think, a level of support that would then, have a greater chance of getting a referendum through. So,
but what was missing on Monday night was, if not an advisory body, then what? What is the next step? And there was no signal given as to where it goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually one of the problems, and I think David's right. There's a lack of patience in the process because I'm sympathetic, quite frankly, to the logic of Turnbull's position there, the prospect of it either being a third chamber or it being so tokenistic that it has no power at all. I think there may be some methodological problems with this, but he's arguing with his head. And there's a lot of heart involved in this discussion, and it needs to, I think, play out for longer.
And losing his temper in that way.
Yeah, and coming up with such a
one other issue I want to